We don't have source. She's running late. Technically could start, even without the lawyer. We could go. All right. Well, given the fact that we're 1 minute and 26 seconds late.
There's a lawyer right now.
All right. We'll hold. I got 30 seconds.
Welcome. She'll be all embarrassed.
Oh yeah, that'd be great. That's priceless. I love him. I'll pay for it later though.
Yeah, he will. Look, the security, that'll just go through.
It's not that we're waiting for legal, but we will hold for legal. Ah. Legally. All right. I'd like to call to order the May 15th Soltrans board meeting. Before we begin and move to the Pledge of Allegiance, I'd like to note that Mayor Young is on a commitment, and Lionel Largaspada, who has been on the Soltrans board in the past, is welcome back into that position for the evening and has been sworn in. So, welcome, Lionel. So, let's start out with join me in the Pledge of Allegiance. And Andrea is joining us.
Last one, y'all. I'll move my office hours so you guys semester.
We were just getting ready to the quorum statement, and we just assigned you two committees. Madam Clerk, can you please state that we confirm a quorum?
We do have a quorum.
Thank you. Do we have any statements of conflict from any members of the board? Hearing none, we will move on to the approval of the agenda. Unless there are any additions, deletions, or objections, I move the approval of the agenda.
Hang on. Chair Scott, staff would like to amend the agenda to postpone item 9C, the Information Technology Services restructuring, to the June 12th board meeting. Our presenter was unable to make it tonight.
Can you repeat that one more time for me, please?
Asking for repeat that, please.
Thank you.
Thank you. And with that, there was a second. Please call the vote.
All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed?
No.
Motion passes.
This is the opportunity for public comment on any matter not on the agenda but within the subject matter jurisdiction of the Soltrans Board. Soltrans Board welcomes public comment on matters within our jurisdiction and authority, but strongly denounces hate speech, obscenity, and disruptive behavior in meetings. Disruptive individuals will be admonished and removed from the meeting pursuant to Government Code Section 54957.95. We ask for members of the public to ensure their remarks are within the jurisdiction of this board and to refrain from making hateful or obscene comments. Manny, would you please start up our sign-up clock for public comment? Madam Clerk, will you read the public comments notice?
Thank you, Chair Scott. Members of the public wishing to speak may sign up at the kiosk in the back of the chamber. Public attending by Zoom may click the raise hand icon, or members of the public attending by phone may press *9. At the conclusion of our 2-minute sign-up period, in-person speakers will be called up to the microphone, followed by those wishing to comment on Zoom or phone. While this item is the opportunity for public comment on matters on the agenda, or not on the agenda, there will also be opportunity to comment on any item on the agenda at the time a particular item is heard.
Thank you, Madam Clerk. Manny, do we have any persons wishing to speak under general public comment?
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Currently do not have any members of the public signed up for speaking at this current time.
Anyone online?
And no one online either.
All right. We can move to the Executive Director's report. Christina will be giving it tonight.
I will. On Tuesday night this week, the City of Vallejo Council appointed 2 new Soltrans Public Advisory Committee members, Avery Livingood and Ethan Standifer, and reappointed founding PAC member Richard Burnett. Also, last night, the STA Board reappointed Tom Bertie, Adjoa McDonald, and Cynthia Tanksley. We'll be inviting them to a future board meeting so that they can introduce themselves. Next slide. We celebrated with all of you at their electrification ribbon cutting event on Friday, May 2nd, along with Congressman Garamendi and Senator Cabaldon. Very shortly, this infrastructure will be charging our buses. We're hoping to hear tomorrow if PG&E is going to officially turn on the power. Next slide. Local Vallejo rapper La Russell met with Mayor Source, staff, Councilmember Gordon, and Supervisor James to take a ride along the Route 2. It was a great opportunity to meet and collaborate, and we discussed a few more opportunities for future collaborations, so be on the lookout for that. Okay, switching gears, we wanted to let you know about how Soltrans is helping shape standards in California in regards to transit. CalITP, the California Integrated Travel Project, works within and under CalSTA. They provide state and nationwide solutions to make travel simpler, cost-effective, and consistent while modernizing agency fleets. One of their modernizing projects is real-time GTFS, which tells transit riders when their vehicles are arriving. So it's our real-time information for our passengers. And they're working to standardize the quality across the state. Soltrans' technology staff supported CalITP in their efforts in defining the scope and in helping them recommend vendors. And as a result, 2 out of the 3 real-time vendors that the state executed master service agreements with are 2 of Soltrans' actual vendors. So we're pretty proud that we were able to help in that effort. So it's Connections and Swiftly are the 2. The next slide, this shows the fact that the quality of GTFS in real time. So MTC measures everybody's real-time statistics, what people see when they go to transit app or go to Google or 511. And they also match this with published schedules and identifying the issues of ghost buses for the whole Bay Area. Trip data is provided at a minimum of 60-second frequencies. As you can see, the average for the Bay Area is about 80% across all the 27 transit agencies. Next slide. This shows you Soltrans' real-time data. We're at 97% data completion in the real time for the month of March, and this has been consistent for us. So we're pretty proud of that. Wanted to share that, and with that, I'm happy to answer any questions.
Do we have any, thank you very much, Christina. Do we have any board members wishing to make comment or have questions? I do. On the GTFS RT at 97%, is 100% achievable?
That's
And
okay.
is there
Oh,
any
I'm
value?
going to defer to Mandy to answer that one.
Is there any value in going to 100%?
So we do have days where we have 100% GTFS. So if we are, it's the bus and the real-time information showing up. So if a trip is canceled, that means that we properly put the information out to the public that that trip was canceled so that our GTFS is 100%. So as long as the buses are out on the road and they're connecting with our GTFS and real-time information and that information is being published, yes, we can have 100% GTFS real-time sharing.
Thank you. Anyone else with a question? No. All right, we have no proclamations. Oh, do we have any public comment? Anyone wishing to make public comment on this?
No comment at this time, Mr. Chair.
Thank you, Manny. Proclamations and presentations, we have none. There's no sense in going through the consent calendar because we have no consent calendar items. So we'll move directly over to, I'm sorry? Oh, excuse me. The next item on the consent is the consent calendar. Items on the consent calendar are considered routine and will be adopted in one motion unless a request for removal or explanation is received from a board member. Items removed from the consent calendar shall be considered immediately following the adoption of the consent calendar. Do we have any persons wishing to make comment on a consent item? Manny? No public comment?
None at this time.
Do any of the board members wish to remove any consent items for discussion?
Yes.
Please? Go.
Yes, I would like to move 7B and 7C.
7D and 7B. That was 7B as in boy and 7D as in Delta.
No, 7C as in caring.
Okay.
Thank you.
All right. Anyone else?
I'll move the remainder of consent.
I'll second it.
Please call the vote.
All in favor? Any opposed? Motion passes unanimously.
All right. We'll move to you.
Thank you. I just want to know any updates that they made recommendations. First of all, I'm happy to hear that the board is renewed with our previous, with Oshawa, what I heard them through the report. But was there any concerns or any recommendations that they shared?
Throughout the whole meeting?
Yes.
Not everything is recorded in the minutes that anything that was brought up. Yes.
Okay, thank you very much. So I just want to make sure, because I promised them that we would always bring them up and make sure that we hear from them. And they said that Oshawa said she would start coming to share herself at least a couple of meetings. Thank you very much.
Is there a motion to approve? Is there a second?
Sure, I'll second.
Thank you. And 7C?
Oh, we have
Oh,
to
sorry.
vote on this.
You didn't hear that yet? Sorry about that.
Is there anyone wishing to make a public comment?
None
Please
at
call
this
the roll.
time. Yeah.
All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion passes unanimously.
Thank you. Thank you.
Thank you, sir. You can tell I have some espresso. I'd like to see, is there a presentation for 7C? And if it is, can we see it?
No, it was a consent item. There is no presentation for that. This is an annual request that we're required to put in to claim our allocated TDA funds, STAF funds, and ARM 2 and ARM 3 funding.
Thank you very much. I appreciate that. That's all I want to know. Thank you.
Thank you.
I do have a question to the chair.
Mayor?
And my comments are, of course, representative of STA. There's a question around this item states that the funding goes through a specific process for approval. The Intercity Funding Working Group has to look at it, the Solano County Intercity Transit Consortium, STA TAC, and STA Board, as described in the report. The question is, this funding is dependent on the execution of the Intercity Funding and Cost Sharing Agreement, which has yet to take place. So the question is there anything here at this board that we need to do regarding that item? Or if you can provide some clarity.
Sure, sure. The funding agreement is only for the portion of TDA that I need to claim from the other agencies, so the rest of the claims should be fine. I believe we have the funding agreement on next month's agenda to bring to you.
And so it doesn't affect this item as if we
No,
approve?
not this item as written, no.
Thank you.
Did that answer it? I'm sorry?
Oh, I was telling her a good question.
Yeah. Thank you. Is there a motion to approve?
I make that motion to approve.
Second?
All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed?
No.
Motion passes unanimously.
Okay, well, we are moving to the regular calendar. We will open up the public hearing of the system-wide comprehensive operational analysis. First, we will hear the staff presentation and address any board comments or questions. Then we will open the public hearing, receive input from the public attending in person or by teleconference, and then close the public hearing. At the end, the board will address the staff recommendation. So Mandy, toss it over to you.
Thank you, Chair, members of the board. Presenting on the system-wide comprehensive operational analysis of the comment period and the outreach that we did. And the outreach that we did to ensure that the public was aware that this public period was open and how to respond to feedback. Next slide, please. So the public comment period opened on Thursday, February 20th. You all opened it at the board meeting, and it's been open for 84 days, so a lot longer than our typical 30-day public comment period. Staff asked that we expand that public comment period so that we had due time to reach out to the whole county to make sure that we received as much feedback as possible so that the feedback from writers, non-writers, stakeholders is incorporated as we revise the plan to bring back to you later this fall. Again, just a reminder that these concepts were created based on a huge analysis that our consultant did, Jarrett Walker and Associates, on our existing conditions, what service we currently have, how is it working, what is its productivity, and then looking really deeply at how Solano County residents are moving throughout the county and out of the county, as well as, I lost my train of thought, I'm sorry. As well as they were working throughout the county, but also taking into consideration the resources that we had. This is a budget-neutral plan. We do not have any additional funding, so anything that we do has trade-offs. If we want to increase frequency, we have to think about the coverage and reduce the coverage. If we don't want to increase frequency and we want to expand that coverage, then frequency is going to be reduced throughout the whole system. So it's something that very hard decisions are going to be made, but it's something that in order to utilize our resources better, that's what this plan is really looking at and hoping to achieve with the revised plan. So the whole marketing plan for the outreach period reached out to stakeholders, reached out to writers, non-writers, so that their voices are heard as we revise the plan and shape the future of our transit service. Next slide, please. Okay, so what did we do to make sure that the writers knew, non-writers and stakeholders know that we were doing this public outreach period? On board every bus, we have multiple screens that have a QR code and information about the outreach period, both in English and in Spanish. And then we had verbal announcements on board all the buses, requesting writers to get feedback and go to our website to look, to see the draft concepts and respond to the survey. Next slide, please. And then we did a digital outreach utilizing our social media platforms and had targeted Solano Express posts as well as local posts. And then we had used our website as kind of the planning page, driving everyone so that they could see the concepts and respond to the survey in one spot. Next slide, please. And then we did a slew of newspaper advertising throughout the whole county. We had ads in the Vallejo Times-Herald, Vacaville Reporter, Fayetteville Daily Republic, Benicia Herald, Your Town, Glen Cove Newsletter, and then we had a great article written right when the public comment period opened from the Vallejo Sun. So in total, we had 36 ads across all of those newspapers, and they ranged from March 9th until just this past Sunday, May 11th. And then stakeholder meetings. So we held 3 stakeholder meetings with key Solano County representatives at them. We had one in Vallejo here at the library that had stakeholders, operators, community members attended. We even had some writers that found out about it and came and gave actually great feedback. We held a special board meeting with a special invitation for the STA staff and board members to join. And then we had a Vacaville stakeholder meeting that really concentrated on the Solano Express system, specifically the Blue Line, that included representatives from the City of Dixon, City of Fairfield, City of Vacaville, and STA staff. And we also had 4 writers attend that one, which it was geared to a stakeholder meeting, but members of the public provide a lot of feedback and great representation as well. An in-person outreach. So staff rode all of our lines, sitting with riders, giving them information about the survey and how to get feedback and specific route information. So when they were on the Route 5, for example, they would have all the information about the Route 5 concept and what's happening, and letting those riders know how to provide feedback. And it gave us kind of a one-on-one opportunity to sit specifically with riders and talk to them about our service. We got feedback about current service, as well as how to shape the future of service. Next slide, please. Okay, the monster of it all. The outreach that we did in person. So this is a list of all the events that we attended or hosted ourselves throughout the whole outreach public comment period. These were on different days of the week. They were at different times of the day. We were out at the Fairfield Transit Center and Vacaville Transit Center at 4 o'clock in the morning to catch the riders that are commuting and using that service. We were at BART in the late evening to capture the BART riders that were coming between BART and bus. We had middle of the day outreach events. We had weekend outreach events. We talked to a lot of people, so I have a summary on the next slide. We spent 80 hours out in the community talking about Soltrans services and this public comment period. I tallied, it's as close as I could get, but 1,042 people we spoke to, handed survey responses out, handed out individual surveys, had conversations about their individual travel and how these concepts are changing their travel pattern, improving their travel, or negatively impacting it, and how that we can revise this plan to change that, or if this was just going to be potentially a negative impact on their travel service. And we received just under 500 surveys at the time that this presentation was created. Those are surveys that were filled out to the extent. That doesn't include the conversations that we had, the comments that we received online, the comments that we received on social media. Those are all being compiled and summarized right now and in the next couple weeks, and will be brought to you at the June board meeting. So we'll have a summary for you, as well as each individual raw comment, so you can see each member of the public's feedback on these concepts. Okay. So what are the next steps? So today we're here to have a public hearing. We're here to listen. We want to hear what the public has to say. I'm a little disappointed that there isn't representatives from the public, but maybe that means that we did a good job doing outreach and getting their feedback and getting and recording all of the feedback that we have about these concepts. So I'm confident that voices will be heard and revisions will be made based on the feedback that we've heard in the revised plan. So we'll bring you back the feedback and the summary that we received from the survey on the June 12th board meeting. And then in June and July, we're going to take the Solano Express concepts to the Solano County funding partners and the consortium, so that they can see the feedback for the Solano Express specific lines and the STA board. So everyone will get a presentation similarly that you've received on the June 12th board meeting. And then the summer of 2025, the next couple months, we'll be revising all the individual concepts based on the feedback we've received. And then at the September 18th board meeting, we'll bring the revised plan back to you for your feedback and a decision as how to move forward with this study. And with that, I'm happy to answer any questions. I hope there's some people online that have public feedback for you to hear. Thank you.
Well, first off, Mandy, thank you so much. I mean, I attended a number of the stakeholders' meetings, and the involvement from both the stakeholders as well as staff was incredible. There was a lot of give and take. There was a lot of specific questions that were asked about how does this affect me, and in each instance, the staff took the time to speak directly to that and not speak in generalities, but talk specifically of what we were doing. On another hand, I wanted to thank staff that we are facing a fiscal cliff, and we recognize that we have to do something moving forward. We can't continue doing the things that we're doing and expect to continue to be able to deliver the kind of services that our riders expect. And some of the key learnings that came out of it and some of the top line comments that we have heard is going to give us the opportunity to be more efficient and effective with moving people from point A to point B. We recognize that frequency is the opportunity. The more frequent you can provide service, the later you can provide service, the weekends that we can provide service where we don't provide right now, there are more opportunities to move people. So I'm hoping that as we continue to answer questions, as you answer questions, and as we move through the various phases of the deep dive into all the data, that we recognize that we are resource constrained, yet we recognize that we have to fulfill our principal mission, and that is moving riders from point A to B to places that they need to be because they can't get there, they can't get their other jobs, they can't get groceries, etc. We are an important service, particularly in Vallejo. And so we now, I'll open it up to those who would like to speak. Supervisor Mashburn?
All right, thank you. I just wanted to make sure, as there's no public here, apparently, who are going to speak on this, that those comments made at the last meeting where we had the consultant out to give a presentation to us are incorporated for the purposes of the COA and the board as well. There were members of the board itself who expressed issue around there being a focus primarily, or the dial being turned only to frequency. And we have to remember that we're going to, at the direction of that board, I saw enough nodding heads around that board that we needed to look at dialing that, or moving that dial back, because there are routes and there are stops that are vital lifelines for folks, especially in the city of Vallejo. So I want to make sure that we're not focusing just on that, and that part of the public's voice was heard.
Yes, yeah. So I didn't even bring up the Public Advisory Committee, those members, that feedback that we received, as well as your comments, are included in that, yes.
Thank you so much for this, and I get that we want to make sure that folks can get an A to B and hopefully to C and D. The concerns that I have is, so when we did that wonderful ride-along with LaRusso and our mayor and board supervisor, Cassandra James, there was a lot of comments, and they was not happy about what was being presented for Bus 2. So I want to make sure that the information that comes back from the survey, that is accurate, because you all were there and I videotaped the whole thing, and they were not happy. Even the only thing that they had asked is that they would have 30 minutes versus that 1 hour, but cutting routes from bus stops was a concern for them, you know, as you heard yourself. And then because the people who are doing this, they admit to us when we don't live there, you know, and we don't know folks' needs, right? And so for the city of Vallejo, I know that this goes out to other portions of Solano County and also towards the schools that our mayor is teaching at. I don't know that because I haven't wrote that, but my son does ride from Oakland to Vallejo, and he experiences a lot too, but he said from what is being proposed would be a challenge for him. And he has he's a disabled veteran, so to wait for your buses for a longer period of time, it would be a challenge. Someone who relies on transportation, you know, if I get frustrated, I got a car, I can pop in and forget about it, right? But when this is your livelihood and have to spend all day just to go to Safeway, it's not fair, you know? And then for students, their biggest challenge is that even after, you know, after school's over, they can't go nowhere afterwards. because there's no transportation to service that. And with the new proposal, it's even more of a challenge according to them. So I'm hoping that when we do get that information, that it's really related to true accuracy of what we heard physically ourselves, if that makes sense. Thank you.
Yeah, thanks. I wanted to first thank you for that time you put in, and having been able to go out on the ride, you can just tell the effort that's put in, the thought that was put in. We had some great conversations actually with the riders. We had, I think just because of the hour we took, we had a modest, I would say a modest number of riders, but we had, I mean, I actually pulled up the maps on my phone and we were showing it to people, and we came up with some really good ideas. And I'm mainly just sharing this for the sake of getting it on the record. Mandy, you were there, and we had conversations about, okay, if we move this stop here, we can pull it off. Now they don't have to cross fairgrounds. And okay, and if we move this stop here, okay, this person has to go a little farther, but they're excited that the bus is now going both directions. And so they're actually feeling good about this. So it definitely makes a big difference to get the riders' input and kind of get those maps up and go, well, what about this? What about that? And I think there was a real good sense of the trade-offs that were involved. And then with respect to Solano Express, I wanted to share that, I've been really pushing to try and Mayor Young would probably echo this as well, to try and really get the sense of the smoothest process that we can go through of the steps of the boards to weigh in, how we get the input. And one of the things that I pushed the STA team on was, in having a conversation about coverage, frequency versus coverage, or ridership, but really it's about ridership versus coverage, I guess, at the end of the day. I think we need to have the real discussion of the trade-offs, because then we make the decision. We can make the decision of this is what the blue line does. This is who the blue line serves. It's not profitable, as other lines are. But what is the benefit of that? What is the loss if we lose that? And then from the STA perspective, as the funder of Solano Express, STA would then make the decision. We as the STA board would make the decision. We would like to invest in this for the sake of coverage, knowing that this is going to cost more per rider than this route that we're investing in for the sake of ridership, and find that balance. But I really tried to push them to, we need to speak about that nuance. We need to speak about what that trade-off is. And then, because there is value in both. And I said from the dais, and the supervisor can corroborate, I said and the mayor, I said from the dais, I'm not going to sell North County down the river. Like I care very deeply about equity, but we do need to have that conversation of we have limited funds. What are we doing and why? So then we can communicate it. Okay, this is why we're doing this. This is how we hope that this will look, 3, 5, 10 years from now, and this is how it's going to meet our needs. So I was pushing on that, and when Beth gets back, I'll start having those conversations, and hopefully we can facilitate the right sequencing of the steps for the boards to weigh in, so that Soltrans will have done the work on rider input, and then the STA board can come and say, okay, what are our priorities for the program we're going to fund, and then Soltrans can come back and say, this pencils or this doesn't pencil, and this is what the implications are, and we can kind of volley it back and forth. So anyway, I just wanted to share that update from my end, and a thank you to for the outreach that has been done here.
Through.
Mayor Hernandez?
First of all, very impressive outreach. Thank you so much. I mean, that's dedication and work that's taking place, speaking to people. I do want to also just follow up on that report out for STA. Thank you to the staff members that were there to present some information about the COA to the STA board. There was a letter that was submitted regarding the STA board comments officially, and I do want to just quickly note that there was not consensus on a streamlined approach about how to navigate what this will mean for Solano Express specifically, which I think is that messy middle that we're in right now, and it's reflective of that and just being very authentic and genuine to the leaders that have to navigate what the decision-making process is for the Solano Express line. Out of that, we received consensus, and I would say everybody was already there, including Mayor Young, at that meeting. But we did receive consensus from the STA board to have a meeting in June to have the entire board collectively together talk about Solano Express as it relates to the COA. I do want to go into the challenges. I do want to note that the city of Dixon is currently going through their community-based transportation plan as it relates to the work for STA, and they're almost at 1,000 surveys, I think, being returned about their needs, and that will influence what it means for that blue line and what decisions that board would make. So I think one of the things that I do want to highlight that would benefit us as a collective is also to understand if there is a greater need to support the blue and that green line, what's the cost associated to that? Because that's not something we've seen here. We've seen what it would mean to reduce, but we haven't seen the cost. Because there could be a potential trade-off of the STA board identifying, is it more cost-effective to invest more on the blue and green line, or is it more cost-effective to move the blue and green line? And that is a question out there that's where that blue and green line has had that happen in the past, where it moved from one agency to another. And that is what will be, I think that's what the STA board is challenged by, because we have different entities on that board that have a different process of navigating those challenges. And so I just want to name them, that's something that I think we would benefit as a whole, as I starting to identify how that decision-making process for that board will also just be as complex as what this board will also be challenged by as well. So just noting those things, but I think that's all I have.
All right, well, the mayor pretty much covered it. I was going to speak to kind of the same thing. Might have said it a little bit different and not as pretty. You know, I'm a simple country boy. So for me, it would boil down to this. At a certain point in time, this board isn't going to make a decision about the blue and green line. It's going to be that board, right? And so, but this board and Soltrans provides that service. To that end, depending upon what that board decides they need for service, we would be well served to have, I would say, the equivalent of a menu of services that we could or could not provide, and the cost for each, so that it makes it simple for them to be able to say, if we want to do this level of frequency, we want to do these stops, this is how much it costs and where it costs and those things. And that gives them the ability to make that decision, as the mayor said, come next month. If they decide, hey, we can't leave this hanging out there and have it be an anchor for Soltrans and an anchor for us. If they decide to pull the plug and throw that out to RFP, right, for it to go out to bid, then Soltrans needs to be prepared to make a bid should we move forward as a board and choose to still do so, or figure out how we're going to realign resources afterwards and what we're going to do with drivers and buses and things when some other company picks that up, right? And the STA board does what the STA board does, right? But either way, we need to focus some resources and some staff on having a plan in our back pocket, right? So I just want to get that out there for staff. Did I get that right?
Can I
Madam
ask
Mayor?
you, can you elaborate a little bit more? What do you mean if we don't do what, and then?
So what I'm saying is that it's nothing that we do or don't do. What I'm saying is that Soltrans can only afford to provide so much service on that blue and that green line. And technically, that blue and green line is owned by STA. And we contract with them to provide that service. If we can't do it for whatever price that they feel is fair and gives them the service that they want, then they can pull that, and that's what the mayor's talking about. They can pull that and they put it out to bid to other transit agencies and say, hey, is anybody out there in this greater area able to provide that service? And for how much? And this is the service we want. STA will tell them, this is the service we want on that blue and green line. This organization, this body, would have the ability to answer that RFP, should it choose to. Or this body may say, you know what, we can't meet that, and we're not gonna, and it's too much, and it's too much of a burden, and we want to refocus our resources on the red line down here and on local service and make sure that we are the best we can be on our core process, right? And then somebody else will pick it up. Or maybe there's somewhere in between. Maybe if we have this menu of services that you know, Soltrans can provide, SDA might look at that and say, well, we could live with this, and that would work, right, for the North County folks once they get their surveys and everything done. And they said, okay, well, we're not going to maybe do an RFP. Maybe we're going to stick with Soltrans, but we want to realign it this way. It gives them options. That's all I'm saying, is that we need to have options in our back pocket either way and a plan either way. If the blue and green line goes away, then there's going to be buses that will be sitting idle out there and won't be used, right? And that's a cost, and those are resources and things that are going to need maintenance and all of that and upkeep, or those,
I don't know there would, because we'd be going more often, right?
what's that?
I don't know that there would be buses idle because we'd be going more often, right?
You would be going, that's what I'm saying. You
re-
would realign those resources.
The route for the green line would then become an extra service on the red or yellow. So that we
Correct.
wouldn't have
You would
idle
move
buses.
those buses into another, so that's what
Right,
I'm saying.
right.
We need a plan.
And it would hit the same, it would serve the same.
Right, we need a
place.
plan to be able to move those buses into another spot in service within Soltrans. If we're going to increase frequency here, you're going to need more buses, but we don't do any of that without a plan. I just am saying, don't let stuff sit idle. One, have the documentation and the research and the things you need to provide to STA when that comes as an item, so that we can be nimble and react. And the second is, if things stay status quo, we're all good, but if it changes in any way, let's have a plan in place to refocus those resources as quickly as possible so that they don't sit idle, because an idle resource is a waste of money. Right? And we're facing a cliff, we need to fix it. So, anyway.
Do you want to?
Well, I also wanted to note, part of this is because I know that we will collectively, with the rest of the STA board, have a presentation come to us to specifically isolate the Solano Express conversation. And there are trade-offs to what that could mean to us, right? There is, if the goal is to, if we see that really the Soltrans would more greatly benefit, and that's a collective conversation because we'll all be there, would more greatly benefit of concentrating their resources to higher frequency on the red line and really getting to everything that we're looking at. But it'll come, in order to do that, it does come at a cost of reducing service to North County. Then there is a trade-off to that. Because that is what, because I switch hats all the time. For the Soltrans hat, we are responsible for the fiscal health and long-term efficiency and benefits of this agency. So this board has to answer what that means for this agency, for Soltrans to be successful, and what that means. And it may come at the cut of some of the other bus lines. And this board can't be afraid to say, we're going to have to cut somewhere. This board has to be courageous and say, in order for long-term solvency, we have to cut somewhere. Okay, and there's trade-offs to that. The other agency has to identify, if you're going to cut services to, let's say, the Blue Line specifically, or more to North County, they have to understand, like, what does that mean to us? And if part of that process is, if they want to have more service to North County, there is a cost to that, because this agency doesn't have the finances maybe to cover that. So if Soltrans is able to say, you want more service here, it's this amount of dollars, that agency can go like, you know what? We can do that dollar amount, right? And we will contribute more money to that Blue Line service to get more coverage to the Blue Line. If the dollar amount, let's say, is like, you know, it's a little high for us, that agency has to identify, are we just going to have to be okay with those cuts and figure something else out? Or is there a different cost-effective way to service North County? And what would it mean to anything that those decisions might have implications to Soltrans, right? Because that if STA goes, I'm just hypothetical, nothing out there, but hypothetical. They're like, you know what? Let's remove the blue line, and I don't know, we'll do another service over there. This board needs to know that that's the direction that STA board needs to go with, is going to go with, or potentially might go with, because that means the COA conversation matters today. Because if those buses are not going to be used for that line, this agency can maximize the use of those buses and how they're realigning here. But that agency might go like, yo, if we remove the blue line, it's actually like twice as expensive to find another agency to provide that service. It's actually more cost effective because of scalability, because of operations, because of et cetera. It might be more cost effective to just add that price tag to just Soltrans directly. But that's not something we know yet, but that I know that that's part of the conversation that needs to be figured out. And my hope is that we can kind of see where that goes when we kind of sit down and collectively have that conversation with the other members. Because some of the North County members are not here, I mean, that's their pain point. They don't see, some of them have been very explicit, and it's on record, they don't see the value of continuing the blue line with Soltrans if their residents or their needs or what they're getting are not being met, right? What we don't know is which direction should they lean to in the price tags associated to each one. So that's hopefully I kind of summarized some of that thinking.
Yeah, that's exactly what you said it, you both kind of said it a little better than I did in terms of when I was talking about the sequencing and the trade-offs. It may very well be that we have a conversation of, I mean, the supervisor's been at this for a while and does a great job talking about a board that he chairs using they. Very impressive, both of you. When the STA board, we approved a van pool, with the priority of this gets coverage. This is not the most cost-effective thing in the whole world, but this gets coverage. We can very easily have that same conversation about the blue. That board can very easily have that conversation about the blue line. And then if Soltrans can come, we as Soltrans can come and say, this is what that means. We as Soltrans, we could do this with a little more money or with the same money. This is what it would reduce overall. Giving that information then to the STA board allows the STA board to then operate in that nuance. And we could talk about what does taking the blue line to another operator mean, but it's worth Soltrans having that information and going, this is the menu of options that we have that we can work with. Okay, now you STA, you decide.
Yes, please.
Mike.
Thought I had it on. I apologize. So one of the reasons I said that we need to jump on this is because STA is not going to wait. They're not going to wait forever. They're going to move forward. And if we're still sitting around talking about a COA and we're still sitting around talking about a funding agreement and we don't have any of those things done, they're going to move ahead without us and we will not have input. And so that's why I said we need to have staff working on this as soon as possible. So when that meeting does come up and these questions come up from the STA board as well, we have the ability to provide answers to those. And we have the ability to provide data and all of those points that will be needed in order to have a fruitful conversation with STA about moving forward and how. And we will also, I would assume, need to have some very solid dates about when we will be signing a financial agreement and when we will be signing and finalizing a COA or CA, whatever it is. Yeah, whenever we're finished, we need to have some dates, right? Because if we just leave that hang out there, they're not going to wait for us. I can tell you, right? So I want to make sure. I just want all of us to be prepared. I got my Soltrans hat on now. I'm in y'all's wagon. I need to make sure we're ready for that. All right.
Well, I think the message has been clearly received. I think we've been hearing this message, a slow drumbeat of this message for the last couple of months. We are in the process, as we all know, of trying to get to the finish line on the COA. We had a beginning, middle, and end date, something that STA as well as Soltrans had established and we're working towards. At the end of the day, we clearly want to make sure that we do what's in the best interest of both STA, recognizing that we don't know all of what the direction of STA wants us to be. And we know, well, at least we feel, where Soltrans is going as the way of the JPA is giving us specific direction on what we are supposed to do. And so all of a sudden now we're seeing these tectonic plates start to move, shift into high gear. There's motion on both of them. And that both parties, speaking on behalf of Soltrans wants to get this done. We want to know what our responsibilities are going to be. We keep understanding that there are significant changes potentially in the offing if we can't deliver what STA wants. At the same time, and not to get defensive, there have been some significant changes in what the goal line is. And we need to set that timeline, as you have said. And I think we're really close. And I think the COA gave us that baseline of information on what do our riders want? What does STA riders want, the express riders want? And so this will give us where we're going to be able to deliver quickly, and now with some additional information as far as what the expectation would be in a question and answer period of, do we really deliver to our charge? Are we getting value for it? I think this renews the pressure on getting it done and then making the decisions. So thank you all for being blunt, at the same time of being very candid, because I think, for you three, if Steve was here, you four, you wear two hats, and you see some of the frustration that is happening at Soltrans of trying to meet the needs of our riders. At the same time, you hear the needs of up-county and of the express riders, and they're not the same. And so trying to bring them together and find where there's that soft spot is going to be a lot of discussion. So appreciate the candidness of those and directness of those comments. So thank you, Alma, and thank you, Mayor and Supervisor. So did you have a comment?
Yes. Thank you. So you all know I did, you all have this record of questions I've asked, which seems like it's lined up with a lot of your concerns. And I appreciate my colleagues, because those, lost my voice. This is important. For me, Vallejo itself, whatever we do, it's at a cost. And being someone who lived experience, understand the effect of those costs, right? And I asked, good, are we in a physical cliff? No, we're not, we're good. But then now we're talking about it again, so that was my concern of worries. My question is, where is the Benicia bus lines? And are there any conversations about their routes changing? And if so, it's not here, real quick. And then my next thing was like, I'd like to know, please, the day that you decide to bring the results back, can that please be the only thing on the agenda so that we can have a real robust conversation our concerns. We can dive deep into the comments that came back. We're not going to rush right through it, that we're really going to take this serious, again, because I see people waiting 45 minutes. I see what it looked like. Matter of fact, when we had the Friday event, I saw people sitting there waiting for a bus for 45 minutes. Literally, I watched that. And they're frustrated by the time the bus comes. And God forbid that bus be full, then have to wait again. We've seen that happen. You know, I'm preaching to the choir, I know. But for here in Vallejo, I don't want us to have to pay the consequences so we can keep a line that that may or may not be needed, but it sounds like it is. But I'm just saying we should make sure that financial cover is here. That's why we're here as a board, to protect both Vallejo and Benicia and the Solano Express. And I don't want to lose that money for Solano Express. I think that helps us. And I'm worried that because we don't want to sign documents that we're doing all this cut. And I'm just speaking, I'm not saying I'm speaking accurately. You can correct me later. But I don't want us to, because we're at a little war here, we Vallejos have to suffer for it. That's my point. Thank you.
Well, I think we've brought this full. I'm sorry.
I'm gonna try. There was a lot of
Benicia.
questions in there. The funding of the local service, the budget for the local service and the Solano Express service are different. So those are two separate funding pots. So the Solano Express service, there's a whole formula and different funding groups that pay for that service, and then there's the local service and how that's paid for. Benicia is included in this, the yellow line. There are concepts associated to the yellow line. The local service in Benicia is the school trippers, and those are very productive. And the way Benicia is built and designed, there isn't really any other way to provide that service. They're almost full every single day and based on the school trippers. So that service isn't being talked about in this concept.
But can we still see the report? Because we are both Benicia and Vallejo.
Correct.
We should see all
yes.
of it.
Oh yeah,
Yeah.
you'll see every. I don't
Kit and caboodle.
even correct grammar or spelling on the public comments. I copy and paste them and put them into an Excel. You'll have every single person's heart and soul there'll be a summary, an executive summary that you'll be able to see, and then there will be a list of every individual comment.
Excellent.
Yeah.
And then last one, you were saying, so regarding, can you please explain a little bit, maybe this would be to you or to the attorney, what is the issue regarding the documents that we are asking to be signed that holds, I guess, over $10 million, if I'm not mistaken? Can somebody answer that for me? What's the concern with it, and why has it not been signed? I did put that in my questions to be asked.
Yeah, I'll address the legal concerns and then turn to Christina for the financing as to what is in, because I don't think it's that much that is in it. The issue, and we brought this to the board, raising the concerns that we had with regards to signing the document. A lot of it was imposing certain conditions on this agency from STA's oversight. And we brought the concerns to this board, asked for direction. Specifically, it was when STA had the right to pull the service, trying to align the approval of any changes along with when the schedules are bid out with the contractor. So we're trying to align your operational contract with your operator, as well as then a separate entity's oversight of you. So we're trying to marry the two. The direction that we got from this board was to send a letter to STA. It is my understanding that they've agreed with most of it. The one thing that is that issue in signing the agreement is that it incorporates in the current schedule. So with regards to the comments about, hey, there's a need to go ahead, there's no change to the system right now. There is absolutely no change to the system. July 1, when this agreement is supposed to go into effect, there is no change. The problem is that if you approve a change to the system, which I believe your timing said September, then you've agreed to a schedule, yet this board may change it come September. So we're trying to align expectations. We're trying to align decision points from the STA as to when you can affect change, you, STA, affect change on this system, and how that then ripples through in terms of the operation. And then I'll turn to Christina with regards to how much, because
I got a question on that, real quick.
Go ahead.
If I can, through the chair. Sure, please. That is, so is there something that precludes this board in September from making a change? I mean, on any given Tuesday, this board can make a change. So we're holding all this up and causing animosity and angst and all this other whatnot when all this is about a board action. And on any given day, STA's board can make a change if need be, or this board could make a change and change direction if need
Good
be.
question.
So I don't understand why we're getting all this big to-do about nothing when we could be making, getting it signed and getting it done, and then if we got to change it down the road, we change it down the road. We amend stuff all the time.
Absolutely.
And I absolutely agree with it. The problem from through the legal lens is the fact that you approve a contract in June and then you approve a change to the terms of that contract without a negotiation with your partner. So then at that point in time, your other partner, of which 3 of you, 4 of you are going to be sitting on that board, is you're now, you could be held into, you as Soltrans would be held in default, right? And so the agreement says you're going to abide by this schedule and this schedule, right? And then what we're talking about now is we're saying, hey, we've been working on a COA for a long time, and that schedule may necessitate a change that we would like to have agreement by both agencies. But the agreement locks you, Soltrans, into a schedule that you have been studying for over 2 years on potential changes. And that's the problem. If we could have some sort of an agreement to say, we'll present the concept in June, July to STA. STA then says, well, you just signed an agreement, you can't change it, right? And so.
And do we really think that STA would be that much of a stickler that they're going to hold Soltrans?
Well, they're pushing an agreement that
to
we're
their-
saying we're going to abide.
To their detriment, especially with this many board members from
I would hope
STA
not.
sitting on this board? That they would hold a Soltrans to that agreement to its demise? I don't see that happening, but anyway.
Well, can I add then, why don't we line it up right then, from the beginning? Why don't we line it up where we don't have this afflictions? Like, for example, I have one service and then that could change. And then I said, you know what, well, let's line it up together. And we did. And so now it works in my favor, either or, because if I don't line it up, let's say I get approved here and I don't get approved here, I'll be out on the street somewhere. But if I line them all up, then I got it going on. So why don't we just do that? It seems simple in my head. Is it too simple? Is it more complicated?
Yeah, I think why it's becoming complicated is that who decides? As you've just all had the conversation here, I mean, you're addressing it. Staff is going to present to you, this is how much money we have, and this is your menu of service that you can provide. You then, the Soltrans board, decides, yes, we like option A with a little bit of B and maybe even a little C over here, but disregard D, right? You make that decision based on what your budget is. The problem is that then STA is saying all changes have to come through us for the express route. When does that happen? When does that change occur? If you're saying you can't afford it and you, based on your survey, says that you wanted to do A with a little bit of B and maybe some C, and STA says to you, nothing but D, we've got this conflict. And so the intercity funding agreement just needs to say, as at a certain point in time, and whether that be as of July 1, 2026, whether it be as December 31st, 2025, when that change affects, and whether or not that there needs to be a divorce between the funding from Solano Express to that portion of the Solano Express that STA funds, because there is a portion of Benicia and Vallejo's TDA, as well as what MTC is providing with regards to what goes over the bus, right? I mean, the bridges. There's a portion of it that is yours to determine for an express route, whether or not I can tell you right now, Soltrans, the name Soltrans is actually copyrighted. Solano Express is not copyrighted. Soltrans is copyrighted by you. It's copyrighted by an operation in Phoenix that we've been fighting with over the years. But the name Solano Express itself is not copyrighted, right? So nobody owns that. Now, does that mean that STAs tomorrow is going to go out and copyright the term Solano Express, right? Nobody owns that. So when you have an express service, Soltrans has express service, and it has funding partners, North County, that assist in the funding of an overall, hopefully, uniform, cohesive, integrated Solano Express service, right? And so to your point, Director Gordon, I mean, it's complicated in the sense of that there are positions being staked out as to who owns what, as opposed to looking at what is in the best interest of the riders of Solano County.
I think us Soltrans having everything to do with it would be in the best interest of our riders. And then funding-wise, we definitely need any funds we can receive. So you were going to say, Ms. Christina, thank you for that. I appreciate that. Could you tell me the amount?
The funding, the Solano Express budget, let's say roughly $10 million, we were saying. The funding, the bridge toll money comes directly to Soltrans as of now. Now, I don't know if STA could go to MTC and try to divert some of that funding. They probably could. I don't know. So that's the RM2, RM3 funding. And that's a good, over $3 million worth of funding. They also, then there's the TDA funds that we all pitch in. Soltrans puts in the largest amount, and then there's smaller amounts from the other communities, other agencies in the county. And that's why we have the agreement as to who's pitching and what. And then we've got our state transit assistance funds. That's another big chunk of money. That's going to be another $2.5 million, $3 million. And that is controlled by the STA board as to how that funding is allocated. And we've had this conversation. The problem with that pot of money is they've carved off $3 million for Solano mobility programs. That leaves the remainder to potentially be used for Solano Express. The problem is that pot of money is going down. It already decreased this year by $800,000. So we're looking at only $2.5 million that's left to come to Solano Express. They do have 3 years of money in reserve. So this isn't something that's going to impact us today. But it will impact in the future because it's based on diesel taxes. So that is the concern with the funding agreement. It's not just the little bits of TDA we get from the other communities, but it's the STAF money and how much is going to come to Soltrans to fund Solano Express.
So the funding that you were referring to, that's the meeting that I attend at STA, the funding partners?
Yeah, we have a separate funding working group that's a subset of consortium. Yes.
Thank you. And you said 3 years of reserve money?
There's about $8 million in reserve that the STA board has already agreed to spend for Solano Express, and that'll carry us for the next 2.5 years if there's no other changes. Potentially, 2.5 to potentially 3 years. And then we've got a problem.
Thank you.
Mayor Hernandez, you have your light on?
Yes, I do have, I want to go back to the question about the funding agreement piece. It's been a while since I read it to study it, so it's a little cobwebs in my mind, but how do we currently, like if Soltrans makes a change to the Solano Express line, what is the current way that we amend that in conjunction with STA? Like how does that currently work?
How do you do it now? If
how
you're
do
going to change a line?
My recollection is that there is an expired funding agreement, so there's really, we've been operating without a new agreement for quite some time. There hasn't been major changes to Solano Express in quite some time. It's all predicated on the COA, which is supposed to inform any potential changes, right? So there hasn't been major changes. There were some tweaks in terms of, was it a year ago? I'm looking at it.
Yeah, in August of 2023, we scaled back service and took out unproductive trips, service that was not being utilized so that we could meet on-time performance.
How is when we reduced, and I kept myself to that one because I was here, when we reduced the Blue Line service from Sacramento, did that affect anything with the funding agreement? How did that work?
It's my recollection at that point in time that funding, there was no active funding agreement. There's been 2 iterations of the funding agreement. We attempted a while ago to resurrect and redraft. There was dueling agreements that went back 2 years ago. So this idea of this agreement is more, I mean, no offense, but form over function. And so to me, it's a matter of how is that conversation, how is, the STA board, particularly North County, because we've got definitely South County represented, how is North County assured that they are receiving value for their contribution of their share of the TDA that's going in? How is STA, the board as a whole, assured that the system and the recommendations of the potential changes are in the best interests of anybody who rides Solano Express? And then how does STA know that they're getting the most efficient use of their dollars? And once that happens, then does it really matter what the schedule looks like? And that's kind of what their fight is how do we get that? We're holding up on the fact that signing an agreement that includes a schedule that we're now talking about and have been talking about for quite some time, you may decide that you want to change some of those routes. And then what do we do? And so if we could wave a magic wand and figure out a solution to that one, here's a simple agreement to sign.
That's why the goal right now is I didn't realize we didn't have a funding agreement in place for the last 3 years, is what?
So you have a funding agreement in place because it continues month to month after, correct? I mean, it's like a lease. You can't just not have an agreement, or you wouldn't be getting funding from MTC. And if we don't have an agreement, then I got an issue when I go back to MTC to talk to them about. Y'all better have an agreement. That's all I got to say. There better be something in writing somewhere. Or you guys are just getting money without an agreement. You can't have that.
MTC has approved the Solano Express plan for Soltrans and has included it in its RM2 and RM3 funding plan. So MTC never needed an agreement between STA, its funding partners, and Soltrans for MTC to say, hamana, we bless it, go forth, right?
Okay.
It is an agreement between all parties that, yes, does stay in existence until some party says, hey, wait a minute, you're claiming my TDA and I want it back.
So it does
right?
exist, it just hasn't been re-ratified at this point or approved. It's in existence as it was however many years ago.
The conduct of the parties has continued as if it was in existence.
So do we need subcommittees then, or something?
Well, I got
to
one more
int-
question
oh,
real
sorry,
quick
go ahead,
before
yeah.
we do that. And it's for council. She's going to shank me with this pen. But that is,
I'll sit on my hands.
that I'm going a little bit back in our conversation here when we talked about how everything is predicated on the COA and the funding agreement and which comes first, the cart or the horse. And we can't have the funding agreement now because we might change something in September for the COA, and we can't do that because Soltrans is then held in a contract that is like this irrevocable ironclad contract. I have never, in all my time in government, seen an irrevocable ironclad JPA or contract. Every one of them's got an out. It says in 30 days, if both parties don't agree and don't like it, we're out. In 60 days, whatever it might be, there's an out. So if Soltrans got to the point where we were like, hey, we cannot afford to do this, we're not doing it anymore, this board could vote to pull the plug, and then STA would be standing there holding their hat, right? Like, what do we do for service now, y'all? So there is an out, I believe. I haven't read it, but tell me if I'm wrong, if there's not an out for this board, should they say, hey, we can't afford to do the service and we can't do what you're asking. So we're going to pick up our toys off the sand lot and go.
Yes, you're right that there should be, in all contractual agreements, there should be a proper out so that you can get out without having any allegation of breach of contract. we brought these concerns to this board and raised them with this board, and the board authorized us to send a letter of saying, it's the timing. You have ripple effects because you have contracts, particularly with your operator, that depend upon certain, there's schedules that have to be bid by the operators, by the drivers. There is fuel that needs to be purchased. So when you make a change, it is then has ripple effects, on this side. We can't make a change and say, we're going to adopt a COA, and then say, STA says, we don't like it, we're pulling out, and we are left high and dry, because then you have then a contractual obligation with your operator contract. So we're trying to marry the two, and that was the direction that we got from this board, to authorize staff to send a letter to say, these are the concerns that we have with this agreement. Please, will you take this into consideration? It is my understanding that at consortium, that was taken into consideration and said, yes, we understand that there are certain time periods that are triggers that create exposure for you. At this point in time, it's still just a matter of including in a schedule for routes that we are discussing potential change. So if the direction of this board is bring it back as is right now, as was discussed, we're going to bring it back next month with the existing routes. And then should you change routes in September, we will then need to bring back a proposed amendment to that contract to say, we've just amended our routes. Please, will you, STA, agree to this agreement? I will note that I don't know that all other funding partners have also approved the agreement. So I do not know that it has gone to Vacaville. I do not know that it has gone to Fairfield or Dixon or any of the others as in the county to also approve said agreement.
As far as I know, the consortia everybody on the consortia has said yes and nodded their head and said, yeah, this
But
goes.
the consortium are just staff
And then-
members just like us.
I understand that.
Yeah.
And then the presentation was made to STA, and they understand that the only holdup to this entire thing is this board saying, our board, saying, yeah, we want to move ahead with this. Because all the rest of them are lined up and ready with what is currently in place right now. Am I wrong?
Yeah, and I think that that's why there's a disconnect in understanding, because I think at the STA, the last time this came to the STA, there was like, we're ready to just move it forward, like we're good with however it is, and there's an understanding at the board level that was acceptable. And I think that's why that was the reason for my question earlier, because it's still following that disconnect of not being on the same page a little bit, where there is the one piece that we're speaking of. There was not an understanding of why we can't just collectively move it forward. So my follow-up question to that is, what will it take to move it forward? What will it take to move it forward? What's the pathway forward for this agreement, in your opinion?
We can bring it back as presented by STA. And I will recommend that there are certain issues in the agreement that have pause for me, and that may be triggers for preventing you from doing what you want to do when you approve the COA come September. And at that point in time, then we deal with the consequences and the follow-up at that point.
So my question, I should frame it, is with the Soltrans hat. What do we have to do to move it forward to safeguard Soltrans, right? Because if the STA group is like, we're ready to go, there's the nuances aren't really necessarily in front of that board that they, right? But so for the Soltrans board, we're like, okay, well, what is the one thing we need to do, or what's the verbiage required that will make it feasible for this board to move it forward? So is that the same answer? Would you say? Yeah.
We tried that. So Soltrans staff revised the agreement, had our comments, and sent it back and said, this is what we are recommending that we think works for both parties. Those comments were not accepted. And so at this point in time, it's a matter of, we've been told this is the agreement. We'll bring it back. There are many things in this agreement that are not necessarily reflective of where we think the power of this board should be in making determinations as to your service level, which is the COA, what we're talking about now. The way that it is now, if we make any changes in any routes associated with what is going to be as an attachment, an exhibit in this funding agreement, it sets you up into this conflict.
Along those lines, I'd have to work that backwards. So if we, as a board here, had an issue with us not being able to decide the routes, right? And we want to make changes to the blue line and the green line. And we feel that we're entitled to do that because of this agreement. Well, if I look at it from their point of view, how are they?
I just want to question. Under this agreement, you do not have the right to change. That's the problem.
Right,
Therein lies the problem.
Right, no, I get
oh,
it.
Yeah,
And,
okay.
and so you're asking for that. So then what protects them, right? What's their protection for the service that they're paying for, right, that they feel they should have a say over, which I feel they should have a say over. If I'm paying for something, I should have a say in it, right? You're saying this board gets to make all that decision and they just kind of tell STA what they get. And so, that's the COA, and you take it or you leave it, right? And they don't have a say. You just got to pay. You just be quiet and sign the bill. And so, are they doing that, and we're in charge, or are they in charge of what they're paying for, and we're providing a service? I just need some clarity on that.
So, sorry. Could we probably can't in the confines of this item, but I'm just going to ask, could we give direction right now to add something, to try to add something to the agreement that will give us a opportunity to discuss revisions to the routes in September, so that then that could be brought back? It sounds like you've already
Make it pretty easy.
but it sounds like you've gone to STA and they said we're not going to revise it. But could we try that and see if that doesn't get us there?
Yeah, what we asked for from this board and what you authorized us to do was to go back to them with regards to the trigger points. At what point in time can you make change and have that out and peel it out? And we can make sure that, if you make the decision to make changes in September, when they will be effective, if STA doesn't like it. The problem is that we haven't had an opportunity to say to STA, we tried with the meeting of inviting everybody down. I now know that STA has asked for a presentation on the COA in June, July, which we think will probably be at the July meeting, right? Mm-hmm. And to have a real discussion as to, do you like what you're paying for? This is what we can afford, and try to marry the two. The timing of trying to execute a document as of July 1, but now we don't have that meeting until late, right? And so, we can bring it forward, have you approve it, included with the schedules, and then to the extent any schedule change actually occurs to the Solano Express line that you would like to see happen, we can deal with the funding agreement at that point in time. The problem is having a real dialogue between parties as to what do you want to fund and what can you afford and what do we think is the most efficient use of our resources.
Is there a universe in which we can try to get that? So we have, for whatever reason, these couple months we've gone back to back. Normally it's 1 week and then the next week, but we've gone Wednesday, Thursday, boom, boom. Is there a way that...
I think that June meeting is going to be the meeting where that conversation takes place.
It has to
which
be,
is
yeah.
Going back in time, the reason I asked staff to have that menu, so that STA has the ability to look at it and say,
Microphone.
sorry, boss. STA has the ability to look at it and say, well, and North County will be there, y'all will be there, everybody will be in the room, and they can say, we want this level of service, we want to see this, this, and this. And, it'll be simple math. You just add it up like the bill at the restaurant. That's going to be this much money.
Well,
So you're going to be sitting in a room and say, yeah, we can, or no, we can't.
I think what I think,
Right.
what I would want to see is it to go to STA on the 11th, June 11th, of can we just can we direct, because STA board can direct staff too. If staff are being inflexible with the contract, the STA board, who has not discussed this to my knowledge, can direct staff to add that flexibility to the contract on the 11th, and then we could approve it on the 12th. Now, that's tight. Normally, there's a week in between, but that's June. That gets us to the end of the fiscal year, and then in July, we can really get into those meaty back and forths about menu and things, because we'll have baked it into the contract, but we won't be in this wacky situation where we don't have a contract. And I'm assuming the end of the fiscal year is our sort of goal, right? So we're looking at we're looking at the June 11th and 12th, back to back.
The only problem on that one is that you're going to get the comments on June 12th. And so it's going to be published. STA will not have those comments because you as the body have not yet received them and processed them and made any decisions, right? And so what we can do is we can bring the agreement forward, sign the agreement with the understanding that should a decision of this board achieve any type of change in the blue or the green line that is unacceptable,
Well,
microphones are
okay,
driving me
so
crazy.
I'm trying to
Right.
put this together. It's on. So what I'm trying to do here is make sure that we meet some timelines and, as importantly, follow a logical path. We have already submitted to STA a letter saying we will sign a contract and this is what we are willing to do. We should just move on that. I mean, we can't take action tonight because it's not on the agenda. But since it's already been approved and submitted, we can resubmit that. Does that?
It was not approved by this board. What you approved was the authorization to
Yes,
send
the
a letter.
right,
So
with
we will
those
bring
changes.
back that agreement
Right.
and get your authorization to sign an agreement. The issue is whether or not that would be an acceptable agreement to STA, right? And so,
It
but
takes it
we've got
off
it. We'll bring it back.
of Soltrans and it puts it to STA to make a determination. And then as Supervisor Mashburn is putting forth, there are things that may be on there that they want on or off. It could be then in part of the discussion of whether they move forward with accepting it or accepting it with the following provisions that would come probably back to us, or we would approve it or have some sort of joint meeting or something like that. But I think the reality is we've already been there, and you're right. We're going back and forth, and it's seeing we're not going to do anything until you do it, and you're not going to do anything until we do it. And the other consortium members are not going to do anything until the two of us, two groups, get together and agree to what the heck are you going to supply and what's it going to cost us. So we're all kind of just looking at each other going, who's going to take the first step? Let's take the first step and move forward with what we've just noted on resubmitting that letter. Hopefully that'll start a dialogue, which will then get the intercity consortium at least in a discussion into the primary discussion. At the same time, we are working in parallel with the delivery of the COA so that it can be seen. This is what you get for this. This is what our recommendations are for that, for the various pathways. And now we've added the layer of pricing things in a kind of an a la carte level so that you can see what those individual pieces are and whether there's an interest on an STA's perspective of pulling that and seeing can it be done better, cheaper, faster, or whatever.
Do that. Thank you, Madam Mayor. We can do that, but again, I got to go back to the timeline to make sure things are happening quickly, because we submit a letter and then we got to wait a month for a meeting, and we submit a letter and we got to wait.
Well,
we just approved the request to go to MTC for RM3 and RM2 funding, right? And so by STA's reckoning, you already done asked for the money. And so they're going to pay the bill, and we ain't got no agreements, we ain't got nothing else yet, right? You see where that would be an issue? Like if I brought you the bill at the restaurant before you ever got your food, you'd be awful upset, especially if you was going to change your order.
Right.
Right? And so that's kind of breaking it down really simple, what we're doing. We just sent them the bill, and we're talking about changing their order and telling them, hey, I know you ordered steak, but we ain't got that. You're getting fish sticks. But you got to pay for steak. And then if we make all them changes and they say, okay, yeah, fine, we're taking fish sticks, or we want to go to another restaurant, we're going to give them a refund? We're going to give them our RM2 and RM3 money back?
Well,
Are we going to give them all that out of our budget? I don't know.
I think we have said, and we have exhibited some high level of desire for collaboration when we said, let's get together as both teams and let's look at the makings of the early report of sausage, of the COA sausage. And that didn't happen. Okay, and so maybe there might be something that we can, I don't know how that could be done, but I recognize the time.
Clarify a question real quick first.
Sure.
Real quick. So one, I don't know if you're referring to this board, 2025, because I don't recall that conversation, because I would say, let's make it happen. I'm like the supervisor, let's get it done. If we haven't, let's take this board and move forward. I would like to know, for clarification, if I can get a copy of that letter. And then for the clarification for the month of June, are you saying both Soltrans and STA will be meeting in the month of June? So if so, please empower us with all the documents so that we don't come there, trying to figure it all out. If we could give it to us, let us, dissect it and bring the menu, and this is what we want to see on the menu, and this is how much we're going to do. Let's keep it moving, because that's what I'm about. Because who's going to really suffer? The stakeholders, the writers, because mommy and daddy couldn't get it right. You know what I'm saying? Simple as that. And that's why all I'm asking. And we're here for you. You're not by yourself. So just empower us with everything. Like I did my questions. Thank you to the chair, Scott, for breaking questions down, even though some of I still have more questions on them, but he still broke them down for me. So something like that would be really grateful, because we don't want to come there right now having an hour conversation and we're right back where we started, if that makes sense. Because I'm like, get it done, let's keep it moving, so our stakeholders don't suffer. Thank you, because I don't want to lose $10 million. I don't know about you, but I could do a lot with that.
A follow-up to that comment is really around, at the end of the day, it's a policy decision. And I can't remember the last time the funding agreement came to this board to lay out some of the issues and things and tweaks, and where we could actually advocate for the changes also needed, right? And so it really needs to come back to the policy board and say, move forward or not, or we're going to put our foot down too. And we don't know that because it hasn't come back here. And I think that's the biggest piece. Like, it can't stay at staff level. It has to come back up to policy, and this policy board has to own that decision, however direction it goes. That was all I was going to add.
And this is the issue that's why I was kind of asking, like, is there any way we can get direct direction right now? Because we've got a back-to-back June where STA goes first. So if there's any way that we can, send a draft to STA for the STA board to discuss on June, whatever I said, 11th or 12th, so that if this comes back to us in June, we're not then waiting for STA to act in July, just simply because of the sequencing. But I don't know, we may just be in a bind. That might not be possible. Sort of a special meeting, which is just,
I'm thinking in terms of agendas will be posted simultaneously. We can do our best to get a draft of saying this includes the comments that were previously authorized. And I was trying to whisper to Christina, because it's the one time I didn't put my computer up. I'd be pulling up, I believe it was the November meeting. So obviously it was November. So clearly, 3 members that are sitting here were not here for that. We can take that direction that the then board, the November Soltrans board that gave us authorization to send comments back to STA. We can include those into a draft agreement, and we can get that to STA prior to the presentation of their drafting of their agenda and say, this is the agreement that we are taking to our Soltrans board on June 12th. We hope that we can marry the two and that you would present this agreement to the STA board for consideration. So is that
Could you just include us in that as well?
I
So
will
that
make
way-
sure that you are copied.
Because I
on
didn't
that.
see that one.
Yeah. I will
Thank
make
you.
sure that you are copied when we get that to them, and then you will see that as part of the agenda of saying, so that we are compliant with the Brown Act, that we said, we send this to STA saying this is what staff is recommending, that the Soltrans board approve, sign, seal, deliver on June 12th. We ask that you do the same for consideration to the STA board on June 11th. That work? Okay.
Yes.
It's not a pen.
And then we have to deal with the potential service changes, but at least we can get the contract done.
We'll include that. Yes. We still need a closing of the public hearing. I thought he did. Oh.
Are we closed on the public hearing? We are closed on the public hearing. I did close. I opened it up, and now we're closing it. All right, we're going to move over to back to business.
Second business.
9A.
You get me again. Thank you, Chair, members of the board. You have before you the report regarding the pilot youth ride free pilot program on your excuse me, your first slide. Thanks, Manny. This is a whole year of the ridership for the Youth Ride Free pilot. So 2023-24 is on the left-hand side, 24-25 is on the right-hand side. So those are your numbers, and then represented on the graph next to it on the right-hand side. The blue line is the 23-24 year, and you can see that the ridership follows those seasonal trends. You see schools go up a little bit when school starts in August, September, October, and then dips down during the holidays, and then comes back up in February, and then dips down in the spring break. The past year, we're not following those seasonal trends. The Youth Ride Free ridership is significantly over, the most recent ridership is significantly over the year prior, but we saw a huge spike at the August, September, October, showing that students are using it to get to school. And then it is continuing to grow, and most importantly, it grew over the dip of the spring break era from March to April this past month. So, I mean, this program is exceeded my expectations. It's done more than I could have imagined it to do. I'm so proud. I'm so happy to see the ridership grow, the positive impacts it's had. So this is just a breakdown month by month, and then I wanted you to see the breakdown of ridership for the whole, each fiscal year. Manny, next slide, please. So fiscal year 23-24 is 33,000 youth. So we tracked that with the passes, the day passes, the 31-day passes. The ridership, youth ridership for 24-25 is 100,126. That is 200% growth of youth ridership. So the next slide, here's just some of the feedback that we've received on our website of parents, grandparents, schools. The Vallejo Unified School District was invited to come here today, and they were going to speak positively on behalf of this. But last, I think October, I presented to the board that the Vallejo Unified School District has seen a dip in chronic absenteeism since we have implemented the Youth Ride Free program, saying that we are supporting getting students to school. So that was kind of one of the biggest barriers, is removing that financial barrier from students and families so that they can get to school. As you can see from that month to month, we're doing more than getting kids to school. I was on the bus with La Russell the other day, and we had students that were going grocery shopping, and the girl was like, I love this program. I don't have to worry about using my grocery money to buy my bus fare. So I love this program. I'm so happy with it. The school troopers in Benicia have gone 100% over there, have grown 100%. We have parents from Benicia that are so happy that their students are gaining independence and traveling on their own. We are creating with this program transit riders that are confident and have grown up using the system, so that they will then use it in their future and into adulthood, and then will come back and shape the future of transit in a positive way, that they have had a positive experience and have loved it. So staff is requesting that we expand this program another 2 years to allow us to really look at the ridership trends and how that it's affecting the community and how it's affecting school access. We have applied for LC TOP funding, which is the low carbon transit operation program funding, to make balance and get us back the lost revenue fare. So that's $200,000 in lost revenue with the Youth Ride Free pilot. And we've already applied to get that money back to support the program so that it is a cost neutral benefit to Soltrans. We're not losing any money by allowing these students to ride free. I'm happy to answer any questions.
Do you have any questions?
Is my microphone? Sorry.
Mayor?
Rockstar program. I used to, I don't know if you know this, but I used to consult school districts in the state. Vallejo Unified was one of our clients. They weren't the client that I worked with, but truancy, this is in like the 2009-2012 time period, truancy rate for Vallejo Unified was one of the highest in the state, and I think they were losing about $91,000 per day or week, I can't remember, on ADA funding from the state. So this, I think we advocate for students all the time, and I know that as Soltrans is facing various financial challenges, that net neutral, I think, is like the place that we can be, and continue to invest in the students that are the future of the community. My wonder is, have we received any truancy reporting back from Vallejo Unified or Benicia, and can see the trend in how it's affecting actually students? Because I think there's more funding opportunities on the educational side as well, when you can actually prove, because of the local transportation, this is what we're seeing in the classroom, and what opportunities might exist for transportation and school districts to work together on it.
I don't have an update of the absenteeism. I can reach out again and ask for an update, maybe as they are finishing out the school year. That could be like an end of the year report. So I'll reach out to both districts for an update on that.
That sounds great. Thank you.
Councilmember Larga Espada?
Thank you, Chair. I don't know how often I'm going to pinch hit for Mayor Young, so hopefully these comments are noted someplace. One suggestion, and then a couple comments, and then a question. I think it'd be interesting to see pre-COVID rates on that chart, because I think that is kind of an interesting data point that I think everyone across industries, public, private, are often measuring their results again. As a follow-up to that, without a doubt, this program has had a direct effect on the ridership, but I'm kind of curious whether you've seen industry data or maybe some anecdotal feedback. What effect has parents or guardians having to go back to work also impact this number? I'm guessing that some of that spike may be a result that, for unfortunate reasons, because I think a lot of people like to work from home, parents and guardians are having to go to work, therefore they can't take their kids. So just comment, I don't know if you guys have seen any information.
I haven't asked that specific question,
Yeah.
but that's something that we could bring up in conversations or in engaging with the youth, asking how. Yeah, no, that's
I
a
may
good
never be
question.
back, yeah.
Not something I've brought up yet.
And then my question is, what is the staff contingency plan in the event this grant doesn't come through, or it comes through at a level that doesn't keep this program cost neutral?
I can answer that. No, there's actually very little risk. The LC TOP program already allocates money to Soltrans, so to every agency. So we know how much funding we have available. We just have to select a program that's within their guidelines, and this is a preferred program. This is one of the acceptable programs. The only other things we could spend this money on, like we spend it on our electrical infrastructure. So this transition to zero emission is also where they want to fund. Well, we just finished all of that, and we've already got money for all of our buses. So we're like, okay, how do we spend our money? This was the perfect program. And we can also use money on any time we change service to increase ridership. So by having this program or increasing ridership, that's what their goal is of the program.
Thank you for the clarification, because that was my follow-up. If there were any restrictions on the grant, sometimes it can only go to certain things. So thank you.
Through the chair, I want to say, first of all, thank you so much for this, because yes, I heard it. Even the day that LaRussell, I don't know if people know, but knew, but he paid for the adults. So that was amazing. And everyone who rode that day, he covered them. But we got a chance to hear the benefits of the young people taking advantage of it. And then also to where I live on Magazine and Porter, I asked, are you riding for free? Yes, Miss Cookie, we're riding for free. This is cool, and I'm going to be glad to tell them that, because when's it going to end? But the benefit, though, was during the spring break, because the kids were not grounded at home. They were able to go places, do things, go back and forth to work, even look for work. And so, because this was free here in Vallejo, and then at the time, I believe it was like a half-off deal. If you went outside of Vallejo, correct, like a 50% off or something like that. If you went someplace with your Clipper card, well, at least that's what they were saying to me. So I just want to say thank you to the staff for applying for this, doing this, because this is what our community needs, and empowers them to do more, and even to do some of their wants, not so much as only their needs, but do some of their wants. Thank you so much.
Manny, anyone interested in making public comment?
None at this time, Mr. Chair.
Thank you. We have a recommendation to authorize staff to extend the Youth Ride Free pilot program for 2 additional years through June 30th, 2027. Is there a motion?
I'd like to make that motion.
I'll second it.
And second? Please call the roll.
All in favor?
Aye.
Any
Aye.
opposed? Motion passes unanimously.
Thank you. We'll move on to 9B, proposed
Okay.
fiscal year performance goals.
Yes, we discussed Soltrans' performance. No major changes were made except to remove the short-range transit plan. MTC pushed that out for a year, so we are postponing that for a year, and staff is asking the board to approve the goals for the next fiscal year.
Anyone on the board interested in making comment? All right, there's a recommendation to approve the proposed 25-26 performance goals as shown in attachment A.
I'll move approval.
Is there a second?
I second it.
All in favor?
Roll call.
Any opposed? Motion passes unanimously.
One that moves quick. 9C has been eliminated. 9D, 25-26 operating capital budget.
Okay. We brought the draft operating capital budget to the board last month. We made no changes to the operating budget since then, and we made some minor changes to the capital budget based on recent information. One thing I want to call out on the capital budget is the HVIP funds that we had budgeted for the 14 additional battery electric buses we have on order. I just want to let the board know the HVIP program is out of money officially at the state level. However, we secured our vouchers for the 14 buses. Thank goodness. So we're good. But you will probably hear in some of the state budget reports or things that are going to come out that the HVIP program is out of money. So we're thrilled that Gillig was able to secure our vouchers in time. And with that, the proposed operating budget is $23,120,000, and the proposed capital budget is $18,553,888. The budget is fully funded through the sources that are outlined in the attachments. And with that, I would propose a motion to approve the budget for next fiscal year.
Questions for Christina?
I'd like to move it to be approved.
Sure. I'll second it.
Second? Any
All in
public
favor?
comment? No public comment?
Aye.
All right, all in favor? Call, clerk, call it?
Any opposed?
No.
The motion passes unanimously.
Thank you. We're moving to 10A, operating revenue.
It's me again. Okay, this is our quarterly budget update through March 31st. Operating expenses are $1.3 million under budget, about 6% of the budget for the 9 months ended March 31st. Most of the budget savings is from our contracted transit expenses. Those are under budget by nearly $1 million, generally due to liquidated damages assessed to our contractor for not meeting contract requirements. I do want to add that the things are looking up, that we're trending in the right direction, and liquidated damages have significantly dropped in the last couple of months. So kudos to the contractor for really increasing their performance. The second major cost driver is our fuel expense, and that is under budget, $440,000. Not only do we not have to use our fuel contingency budget, but we received substantially more biofuel credits, biodiesel credits this year than we had expected, so it really brought our costs down. And then all the other changes are listed in the report. They're all pretty minor. A lot of it's due to timing. But we'll definitely end the year under budget. With that, I'm happy to answer any questions.
Any questions for Christina? Is there a motion? Oh, no, this is just discussion. We'll move on to 10B, system performance.
Thank you, Chair, members of the board. I'm Myron Banyas, and I'll be filling in for Ron for today's April System Performance Report.
Welcome.
Thank you. So we'll begin today by discussing the productivity by looking at the trips and hour-based metrics and the ridership and passenger metrics. So this is the updated ridership by local route for April, and every line has experienced an increase in ridership. And some of the most notable ones here can be seen on our school trippers, which can be attributed to our Youth Rider Free program that Mandy just talked about. And this is the updated ridership by express routes for April. And all routes here have also seen an increase. And this is the first time in this fiscal year that all routes across all modes have seen an increase month over month. And ridership year to date is up by 9% on local routes, 75% on the school trippers, and 6% for the express routes. And ADA is currently 7% below from last fiscal year. Here's a look at our trending ridership for local routes, and April has seen an 8% increase from last fiscal year. School trippers have seen a 60% increase from last fiscal year. Express routes have seen a 6% increase from last fiscal year. And ADA ridership has seen a 2% increase from last fiscal year. And we noticed that for ADA, does not seem to be a seasonal trend that's happening. So we're looking at monitoring this and working closely with our contractors to figure out the bottom of this and to see what we can do to be better in the future. And for our monthly productivity, it has stayed the same or increased for all modes, with local staying the same, school at 48%, express increasing by 1%, and ADA increasing by 19%. And this is our express productivity, and productivity is measured as the passengers per revenue hour, and load is the maximum amount of passengers per round trip for the route in the month of April. And as we can see here, productivity could be a bit better as a result of knowing the max load, but with the upcoming COA, we're hoping that we can increase our productivity on all these routes. And here is the missed trips for April. For local, there was 41 missed trips. School trippers, there was 0, and for express, there was 6 missed trips. So this brings to a total of 47 missed trips in April, which accounts for 0.004% of the overall scheduled trips in April. And overall missed trips in April decreased by 22% from last month, which is about 13 trips, from 60 to 47 trips. And we're continuing to work with our contractor to bring this number down by investigating more reasons for these missed trips and providing some more mitigations.
Mr. Chair, can I interrupt real quick? I just wanted to say congratulations to the drivers and to everybody else. That's an incredible change in just a month's period of time. Much appreciated. You know, thank you. Yeah, that was great.
So looking closer into the local missed trips, we can see that the local routes for April have increased by 2 missed trips from last month. And for Express, we can see that the missed trips in April decreased by 15 from last month. Next, we'll move on to discussing the performance by looking at the on-time performance and complaints. On-time performance has generally been trending downward since February, and we think that this may be a result of underreporting the true on-time performance as a result of a disconnect between our systems and the drivers. And again, we're hoping to work with our contractors to address this issue. And these are our trending verified complaints, which are complaints that have been identified with evidence in data and or video cameras. And in April, there was 25 complaints, which is a 20% decrease from last month. And lastly, we'll be discussing safety by looking into accidents. In April, there were 3 additional accidents, 2 of which were preventable and 1 was non-preventable. And that concludes the system performance report. And I'm open to any questions if you have.
Any questions, please?
Yes. I would like to ask if the operator director can come up, if it's okay. Because I know that you have some strategies on, and also we'd like to welcome the new staff as well. Yeah. We want to welcome him properly as a board. He just recently introduced him.
Good afternoon, board. Yes, I want to introduce my Stephen Newton. He's our new operations manager. He started 2 weeks ago.
On the side right, you can lift it up right there on the side.
There's a little toggle switch on the bottom right.
Right here.
Lift it up. Yeah, there you go.
Other way.
Go for Steve.
That's the cool part.
It's pretty cool. Yeah, I'd like to introduce, good afternoon, board. I'd like to introduce Steve Newton. He's our new operations manager. He's been with us for 2 weeks. And part of the improvements in the missed trip reductions has been a big focus of Steve, and we're seeing the numbers go down, so we want to welcome him aboard. And we're plugging away, and we still have some challenges with on-time performance. We're working with our operators with a lot of retraining and some major focus to get those numbers to go the right direction. And you expect to see improvement in those results over the next few weeks.
And you've been with us for how long so far? You've been with us for how long so far?
I've been here for 2 months now.
Thank you.
Yeah, happy to be here.
Thank you very much. Welcome again for you as well.
Thank you.
Thank you. So I know that you have some plans to help with this, and anything we could do to assist, let us know. But I really am happy with the complaints that have went down from last May was 66%, 66 complaint to now currently to little less than 25. So thank you very much for that. And I want to thank staff for making sure that these complaints are taken serious by all means. But I do have a quick question. What is considered to be valuable, confirmed and not confirmed? Like what they was lying? I'm confused. Just asking directly.
Verified complaints means that there is data or video evidence behind it, because there could be some complaints that have no evidence, but as long as we have something to back it up, then we consider it as verified.
And if I could expand on that, if there isn't any evidence, there's a video, not a video or a witness or any way that we can verify it, it is considered a verified complaint, and then it is taken care of. And the operator, if they were involved, is coached as such. So if there is no evidence, it's still considered a verified complaint in our system.
It's not like you don't ignore it.
Correct.
It just means that.
Correct. But if we have video evidence that it's not how it's being confirmed, then it is unverified.
Thank you.
Chair, I did have a quick question. If I
Yes,
could.
please.
Can we go back one slide, boss? So I'm just wanted to ask about trending accidents. So if we look at fiscal year 24, Is this going to be based on the fiscal year ending in July, and so we've had that much of a reduction in accidents? Or is
Yes.
this an annual and we're halfway through and still got more to go?
Yeah, I mean, it's the fiscal year, and we're doing pretty good. I don't want to knock on, I mean, I don't
No,
want
I
to
was
brag.
gonna say, knock on something. That
I don't
thing
wanna
looks
jinx
like
it.
wood.
I don't want to jinx it. And the 2 accidents that we had for April, they were mere accidents, but they were an accident.
This is another example of some really good reduction, and I just
Yeah.
wanted to point it out and say, hey, it's not just the ridership, it's your drivers.
Yes.
They're doing a much better job, and it's
Yes, they are.
appreciated. Thank you.
Yes, they are.
Yeah,
We're going to continue as well.
yeah, thank you.
Thank you.
And again, thank you. And if you could tell him a little bit how to kick more butt, the way you're doing to get the missed trips, et cetera.
He did it at
He
the
would be
last month's meeting.
dangerous.
I told him about it as well, so he did. Sometimes we need it.
Yeah,
That's
well,
okay.
thank you.
All
Thank
right.
you. You're doing an incredible job.
Thank you. Thanks, Board.
All right, the last item in front of us today is,
We have to say thank you to Ron, too, because we know this is his baby as well.
the last item in front of us is a state legislative report.
No discussion.
I'm sorry, it's off.
On for no discussion?
Does anyone know the status of AB 316? That was Lori Wilson's number, which is eliminating us at the, stopping at the wait in Cordelia.
This came up last night. I don't know that we got an
I don't believe there
update
was a
per
resolution. I think it's
se.
still in committee.
However, Caltrans representatives received the information, and there was no update on the legislation, I don't believe. Yeah.
Okay. That's a big one for us, obviously.
Oh, yeah, and it was brought up. Mayor Young, I think, was the one, he
Yeah.
brought it up, and he purposely brought it up when Caltrans employees could hear it as a captive audience.
Good. It may be 361. There's a 3 and there's a 6 and there's a 1 somewhere.
That's a Bible verse, very important one.
That's a Lori Wilson bill.
316 is not.
All right. So, Board of Directors comments. Does anyone else have a final wrap-up comment? Or we're going to move to adjournment?
I just want to say, I see his mic is on.
Oh.
Oh. And I just want to say thank you to the staff and for listening to us and allowing us to be completely transparent and share those hard questions and concerns. Because we do get asked those questions, and I don't want us to be accused of not being transparent because we're not trying to hurt people's feelings. That's not what we're here to do by no means. We're here to support you. But you know me, I can't be fake, because that's why you trust my judgment, because I'm going to be direct and honest, and I appreciate it. But I also give kudos where kudos belongs, and then also let you know I'm willing to be part of the solution as well. So I want to thank you all for all your hard work.
And with that, we're adjourned. 2 snaps up. There's a mini. I think we heard the message, Mitch.
Nice to meet you.
Nice to meet you, too.
Thanks for joining us.
We heard it. It's not like we haven't been trying to work towards it.